The Texas Republican Party fired off a few tweets yesterday looking to embarrass Ted Cruz's Senate challenger, Democratic Congressman Beto O'Rourke. The tweets included this picture of the Democrat when he played in a punk band back in the 1990s. But the plan seemed to backfire somewhat on Twitter, with many people saying things like, yeah, definitely don't want to vote for this cool guy who did fun stuff and had friends. Yeah, Twitter can be not useful sometimes. Now to New York's gubernatorial race.
He used the MTA like an ATM, and we see the result. He has had 7.5 years to avoid this very avoidable crisis in our New York City subway, and he has done next to nothing.
Governor,
why would the next 4 years be any different?
Governor, would you like to respond to that?
My opponent lives in the world of fiction. I live in the world of fact. The subway system is owned by New York City. The subway
MTA has been controlled by the state since 1965.
Can you stop interrupting? Can you stop interrupting?
Can you stop lying?
Yeah, as soon as you do.
Wow, some of the more heated exchanges there from last night's debate between New York's incumbent governor, Andrew Cuomo, and Democratic challenger, Cynthia Nixon. And Cynthia Nixon joins us now. Welcome. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Mika. Great to be here.
So I want to get right to it. Andrew Cuomo called you a phony who concealed your tax records and would run New York into a debt-driven crisis. Have you ever concealed your tax records? And then I want to ask you about the how. How would you adequately fund the programs you're proposing? But first, the taxes.
So yes, no, I have not. I've not concealed my taxes. At the beginning of the campaign, I released 1 year of taxes, which I really think is important for New Yorkers to understand, is more than Andrew Cuomo did when he ran in 2010. He did not release his taxes until after the election. Then a few weeks ago, I released another 4 years. The governor was really hoping to find something. It was a nothing burger. Reporters came and poured over our taxes and mostly didn't write stories about them because there was nothing to say.
But what is he right about the funding? I mean, how would you fund the programs you are proposing? Where's the money going to come from? How does it work?
So, you know, I voted for Andrew Cuomo 8 years ago because I remembered his dad and because I believed he was a Democrat the way he said he was. But since taking office, he's governed like a Republican, and he's handed over massive amounts of power to the Republican Party. He slashed taxes in his first year in office on corporations, on banks, on the super rich. And I think that we can afford in New York to have our corporations pay a little bit more. And I think we can have our wealthy people afford to pay a little bit more. Andrew Cuomo has so many Republican and so many corporate donors. He's really leaned on that side. And as a result, we've lost $25 billion in revenue. And we have things like the New York City subway. The defunding of it is running it into the ground. We have our SUNY and CUNY system run into the ground. I really got in this race. One of the chief reasons is because of education funding, because for 17 years, since my oldest child entered kindergarten, I've been fighting for the billions of dollars that the highest state in New York says that our school kids are owed in high needs, low income school districts, $4.2 billion. Right. And we can do that. We can do that by enacting a millionaire's tax, and we can do that by increasing our corporate taxes, which are less than half they were when Andrew Cuomo's father was governor. And we can do it by closing corporate loopholes.
Okay, so plainly and simply, you're saying you would raise taxes on the wealthy and on corporations.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's also a lot of what we see. We have billions of dollars being spent on economic development, a lot of which has gone directly into the pockets of Andrew Cuomo's biggest donors with little job creation and no oversight. This is what the trials were about this spring. It's why Andrew Cuomo's chief aide, Joe Prococo, is headed to prison. It's why his chief economic development czar, Alan Calieros, is also headed to prison along with some of his big donors. We have... Yes, sorry, Megan.
Yamiche has a question for you, but just really quickly, are you surprised that an incumbent governor attacked you so personally during the debate?
I think that Andrew Cuomo was looking to attack anything about me that he could think of because he has a record that's very hard to defend, particularly when you talk about how he has handed over control of the New York State Senate to the Republicans for the last 7.5 years. Basically, what he's done is he's incentivized a group of Democratic state senators to vote with the Republicans and to give them the majority. This is as if Barack Obama had said to some Democratic senators, hey, will you go and vote with the Republicans and make sure that Mitch McConnell is the head of the Senate? And what that's meant in New York is we haven't done almost any of our progressive priorities, whether you're talking about funding our schools, whether you're talking about fully funding them, whether you're talking about single-payer health care, whether you're talking about real justice reform. We need such justice reform in New York. We need to end cash bail, because 2/3 of the people sitting in our jails on any given day are there because they can't afford bail. They're there because they're poor. And we have to put an end to that in New York State.
Let's get to Yamiche Alcindor. Yamiche.
Ms. Nixon, you and Governor Cuomo argued yesterday during your debate about who was the biggest Donald Trump critic. You also said that Governor Cuomo should return some of the donations that Donald Trump made to his campaign. My question to you is, how effective do you think it is to run an anti-Trump campaign, given that Democrats did that in 2016 and lost?
That's exactly why I'm running, because I feel that Democrats this year, if we want to win and if we want our voters to turn out, Democrats have to understand what we stand for. We can't just be a kinder, gentler, more diverse version of the Democratic Party, of the Republican Party. We need to elect more Democrats this year, but we also need to elect better Democrats, and we need people to speak about the economic and the racial and the gender inequality that's swallowing our democracy whole, and actually do something about it, not just pay lip service to it.
Rick Tyler, jump in.
Cynthia Nixon, you talk about, and I'm glad that you're very frank about it, you want to tax millionaires and billionaires, and that's all well and good, and corporate tax, but New York is not its own nation state. The companies and millionaires and billionaires can choose to leave to go to other more tax-friendly states like Florida, like Texas. And if you were successful in imposing a millionaire's tax or a corporate tax, what makes you think those companies would, and those wealthy people would stay in New York?
So I think that wealthy individuals have the liberty of choosing where they want to live. And if high taxes were the thing that were going to make wealthy people move, we wouldn't have so many wealthy people in New York. We wouldn't have so many wealthy people in California. But when you talk about businesses, about being a business-friendly environment, one of the main things that businesses care about is having an educated workforce. And in order to do that, we really need to invest in education. The other thing that businesses really care about is infrastructure. And we've so divested not only from our New York City subway, but from our roads and our transportation in general. If we want to create jobs for New Yorkers, investing in infrastructure is the most effective way to do it. And it's a way to prepare our state for the future and make it more business friendly.
Cynthia Nixon, thank you so much for being on this morning. We invited Governor Cuomo to be on the show as well to discuss the race. We hope to have him back on soon. Final moments of the show. Eddie Glaude, I'll give you the airwaves. Final thoughts.
We have a chance to be otherwise. America has to make a choice. Will we be racist, or will we actually live up to the promise that is the country? We'll see.
Okay. Thank you, Eddie. That does it for us this morning. Stephanie Ruhle picks up the coverage right now.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.